Everyone is talking about the AI race between Opus 4.7 and GPT 5.5. And you'll find all kinds of synthetic benchmarks online to tell you which AI is better and worthy of your wallet. But the truth is, none of these benchmarks address any real-world use. Now, I use both of these every day, and since I'm not willing to sell my kidney on eBay to afford two ridiculously expensive AI providers, I had to pick one. So I put them head to head on 4 real-world tasks. Same prompts, same starting conditions, one shot each. Now, what I found really surprised me because the results weren't what I was expecting. So let's get into it. Hey guys, so just a quick one. While I was editing this video, Claude decided to release Opus 4.8. Now, I've been testing 4.8 for about 2 days now, and it's just marginally better than 4.7. But still, I've gone ahead and included all the benchmark results for each of the 4 tests. Let's get back to the video now. So the first thing we will do is we'll go over our setup, the rules of the test essentially. So this is going to be identical prompts for both tools, fresh sessions, one shot each, no re-rolling. And even though I've used both these AIs extensively for 30 days, we're doing these tests on the same day. And here are the contenders. Now we have Codex running on GPT 5.5, which is OpenAI's flagship, and I'm paying $200 per month for this. And then we also have Claude Code running on Opus 4.7, again, paying $200 for this per month. Now, here are the 4 tasks. Now, first one is a research task, and we are testing reasoning, web research, and synthesis. The next task is video animation. Now, over here, we are testing niche frameworks and design taste. The next is the Tetris game. So we're going to be building a game just from a spec, like one-shot coding basically. And finally, we have the front-end dashboard where we'll be testing long coding sessions and visual fidelity. Essentially, we want to see how good the AI can get the final front-end dashboard with just a series of prompts. Going to round 1, the research task, here's our prompt. Now we're saying research the SaaS growth tooling space, products that help SaaS companies grow their user base, identify the 3 to 5 main players, what they charge, The output has to be a markdown or even a doc file. I've actually asked for a doc file later on in the prompt. All right, so coming over to our output, you can see this is the output that was created by Codex, and you can see it's got most of the stuff that we're looking for over here. This is the market map, so it's given us the competitors. It's also given us the core strengths, the weaknesses as well. And then finally, it's given us the competitive gaps that if I was to start a new SaaS product within this market, what would be some of those competitive gaps? And then finally, we also have like a bottom line over here. And the output is pretty good. So we've got the source notes and all of that. And this is a pretty good research is what I would say. Now let's take a look at what Claude Code produced. And this is the output from Claude Code. And what we see is that maybe the table is a bit more neat. Like if you look at the one from Codex, we see the table is just a bit janky. But I mean, this is more like design level. But at the same time, it's given me pretty much the same data. It's given me the core strengths, the weaknesses. Slightly, maybe there's one different competitor over here. But overall, it's given me maybe a cleaner competitive map. Now, very slightly better on Claude Code, just because we have, better design interface for the tables. And it's given me a more structured sort of competitive map. So coming to the difference here, what I've noticed is that Codex produces a clean output, gives you everything you need, and the time it took was around 2 minutes. Claude Code, on the other hand, slightly better formatting, time slightly longer, around 3 minutes, but the design, especially those table designs and whatnot, is where I would say Claude is slightly better. Now, in terms of the score, I'm going to give 1 point to each, so it's a tie, simply because the differences are very marginal. Now, coming over to round 2, we're going to be doing a video animation using Remotion. Now, the prompt is build a Remotion composition, a physical AI assistant welcome screen, 6 seconds, black background. You can see I've given it my brand orange color, and I'm asking for this subtle breathing motion, which is centered around a glowing particle orb, basically. And this is going to be like an SVG implementation. So to give you an idea of the orb that I'm looking for is something like this. Now, I haven't given it a screenshot. I'm just explaining everything with just that one prompt. So if I did give it a screenshot, maybe I would have got a much better output, but I'm just going to give it a text prompt and let's see where it goes. So this is the output from Codex, which is pretty good. I mean, I've got the particle breathing orb over here. It's got this sort of shaded thing going on in the background. It's really good. I do like it. And this is what we have from Claude Code. Again, very similar. We've got the particle orb. It's breathing. It's got that sort of pulsing animation. I do like how there's that halo effect. All right, so in terms of the difference, Codex did it in 3 minutes and 24 seconds. And in terms of the quality, what I'm going to say, it's around 9 out of 10, maybe slightly better than what Claude Code produced. But Claude Code, on the other hand, actually did it in 2 minutes, 35 seconds. It was a minute faster. So for this round, I think I'm going to give it to Claude Code simply because it was a little bit faster. But in this particular example for me, I would say speed was more of a factor simply because I'd be iterating it over and over again. So the edge goes to Claude Code. Now the next round, this is where we're going to be testing some heavy coding skills and we're going to be building a Tetris game. So the prompt is build me a playable Tetris game in Python that runs in the terminal. Include all standard pieces, rotation, line clearing, scoring. One file, I should be able to run it with Python tetris.py. So what we're testing here is one-shot build, code quality, and really like very vague specs. Okay, now we've got Codex on the left and we've got Claude Code on the right. Now starting with Codex, to be honest, the game is playable. So I'm just gonna move that piece over here. So the game is playable, but the one thing that I've noticed is that maybe the design is slightly less than what Claude Code on the right produced. Now let's try out Claude Code. I'm going to unpause this. Now you can see Claude Code's even given me this drop guide on where the pieces would land. So that's pretty nifty. But let's pause this. But on the other hand over here, I'm not getting any of that drop guide for Codex. But it is a clean implementation though. So design-wise, yeah, I think Claude Code definitely wins this. But in terms of just playability, in terms of the implementation, I think both produced these games, both produced a Tetris game without any sort of errors, and I'm able to play it. All right, so in terms of the difference, Codex, it did it in 2 minutes and 45 seconds. Now quality was 7 out of 10. It was clean, it didn't have any errors, but at the same time, it didn't have any bells and whistles either, and it was done. Now for Claude Code, and this is where it surprised me, even though the quality was better, it did it in 10 minutes and 20 seconds. Now it was more polished, now it had a drop guide and it had better colors, but is it really worth being 5 times as slow? Another thing with Claude Code was that it constantly kept asking me for these permission prompts, but Codex on the other hand, it just chugged along. I gave it one prompt and it just did the whole thing. I'm going to give this one to Codex just because 5x the time taken doesn't really justify the output. So we are now at a tie and the final test is going to be a dashboard. Now for the dashboard, we are getting it to build a single file static HTML task management dashboard from the attached spec sheet. Now the spec sheet is quite long. It's like around 40 lines. So it's going to have a modern look, loose-side icons, responsive. So to give you a quick idea of what the dashboard looks like, so I went to Dribble and I found this dashboard design. And essentially what I did was I took a screenshot of this and I gave it to an AI to just write out the spec sheet. Now, I'm not attaching any screenshots with Codex or Claude Code. So it's simply going to be that spec sheet. And let's see how close it can come to making a similar dashboard. All right, so first starting with Codex, and this is what Codex produced. You can see it's very, very close to what we have over here on Dribble. There are a few issues. Obviously, these hash patterns don't look all that. This project management, whatever this bar is, I'm not really, convinced with that. But everything else, in terms of the icons that it's used, in terms of the fonts, in terms of what it should look like, I would say it looks 90% similar to the final output. And this is what Claude Code did. Okay, so I do like this project progress bar better. Now, again, this is hash patterns that I'm not a big fan of. I feel like maybe the icons are slightly better for Codex compared to Claude Code, but you can see again it's very, very close to the design that we have on Dribble. So both of these did a really good job. So coming over to the differences, now we have Codex, which again, quality 8 out of 10. It did it in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. Codex took 6 minutes and 44 seconds to do it, but the quality was still the same, practically 8 out of 10. And the real difference over here was actually the time difference. But the same quality, 3x slower for the same result. So I have to give the win to Codex for this one. And Codex gets 3 points, Claude with 2 points, same quality, third of the time. And for the final tally, we have research, which was a tie, 1 point each. Video animation, Claude Code edges out. Tetris, Codex did better. Dashboard, Codex did better as well. And the final winner for this is Codex. But let's not stop there. If you're using both these AIs, you can actually pick which ones to use for which task. So when to use which, so we have for prototyping, iterating, Codex seems to be hands down the best. So for shipping production code, Claude Code is the winner over here, just because it has a little bit more finish, better polish. So when it comes to maybe shipping that final production output, I would go for Claude Code. For pure research and writing, it's a tie. You can pick whatever. But to be honest, for most people, most of the time, Codex wins hands down. And honestly, this is something I have seen over the last 30 days of my testing. Compared to the previous version of GPT 5.4, 5.5 is so much better. So there it is. Let me know in the comments which AI you guys are using. If you enjoyed this video, then drop a like and hit that subscribe. It genuinely helps the channel. And I'll see you in the next one.